Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode. I am so grateful, so grateful to be joined on this podcast with a special, beautiful sister friend, Mrs. Sharon. I'm saying her whole name, Roshell Thomas. Welcome to the podcast, sis.
Hey, thank you. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Yes, I feel the same way. You guys,
Yeah.
listen. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you now, you are going to hear the joy and see the joy in us as we speak. I thank God for this woman and her being in my life. And I'm so glad that we have a chance to, let's say sit down, but yeah, sit down together, even though we're in two different places. But but have a conversation. It's gonna be so rich. And we're actually recording this episode on Sharon's birthday. Happy birthday.
Woo! Happy birthday, me.
Yes.
Happy birthday, me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So no matter when you hear this, like
hmm
a month
hmm
from now, 5 years from now, I want you to think and just say out loud, happy birthday, Sharon. But Sharon, I wanted let's to go ahead and just jump in. Let's go ahead and jump in. I love for you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, I am Sharon Roshell Thomas. I'm so excited to be here with you. Um, who am I? You know what? I like to say it this way. I am verified, validated, certified, substantiated, shown, and proven to be 100% authentically me. Ah, that's who I am. And, throughout the years, I have come to an awareness of who God has created me to be. I think it's an ongoing process for us. And one of my assignments is to empower, to inspire,
Yes.
and to ignite purpose through my voice. And so I do that through speaking, yes, through singing, but God has given me my voice to ignite purpose, to empower others and inspire them. And so that's in a nutshell who I am.
I love it. I love it. And you are a queen. And I thank you so much. My listeners on audio, you all cannot see Sharon, but I encourage you go on YouTube and subscribe. Come on now. Like, comment,
Ah,
subscribe. And then you
that's it.
see she is repping her Queen Arise. The green and gold
Yes.
sweatshirt, and she's wearing a beautiful crown. Thank you, sis, for supporting.
Absolutely, absolutely. 100%. You're my sister and I got you. I'm supporting all the way. I
Thank you.
love this too. I
Thank you.
feel very queenly in it.
And you are. And you are. And you
Thank you very
are.
much.
So I love it because we definitely connect on um, understanding who we are and inviting others into that revelation that they are who God
Yes.
says that they are.
Yeah.
So
Mhm. Yeah.
I'd love for you to also talk about like the things that you do and how you,
Okay.
I know you talked about your voice and your singing. Like, what's your day to day? What do you do here? And all
So
over.
I do
Yeah.
I do a couple of things. So I do juggle, balance, many hats. And so my husband and I, we have a family service agency that we founded. And so we provide therapeutic care for children who have been not removed from their home, not with their families. So we place children in homes
Mhm.
and we place children for adoption as well. We provide therapeutic services for them as well as case management. And so we do that. We also have a school, MHG Preparatory Academy.
Shout
It's
out
a
to
middle,
MHG.
yes, a middle and high school where we are developing global leaders to lead with kingdom principles. And so we have the opportunity to shape them. So we founded the school and we just got accredited. Whoop, whoop. Two
A
years
whole
in.
process.
It was a whole process, a whole process. So we have that. We also have a music label. I have about 5 albums. I'm about to release another album. And so I'm a singer, a Billboard charting gospel artist singer. Praise God. I've charted Billboard twice. Um, I have a podcast, The Authenticated Life.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm showing up when I show up daily. I'm showing up wherever I show up. I am showing up with my assignment, which that again is that empowerment to empower, to inspire, to ignite purpose through my voice. So it's always something to do about purpose, identity, finding your place.
Yeah.
And I find myself, even when I'm in the store, when I meet people, the thought that's going on in my head is, okay, what is this person's purpose? What are they here to do? And that's just something that lights a fire in my belly.
Yeah. So good.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I want to lean into that. Like, as
Mm-hmm.
you meet people, so what does that look like? And I guess, how do you start conversation where they may leave thinking, like, okay, now I kind of think about what my purpose is. Like, can you talk
Yeah.
about a time you've done that, whether it was in the store or with a student or with a parent you were
Yeah.
working with?
Okay. Oh my goodness. There are tons. Since I do it so often,
Yep.
oh my goodness, that's a big one. So I have done it with people that I don't know, right? And it's again a natural part of me. I think recognizing what naturally happens with on the inside of you. And that's one of the things I lean towards: purpose, identity. And when I cross someone, every moment in a store is not a moment where it's like, what's your purpose? But there are some moments when I come across someone and I can't let the moment pass. It's
Yeah.
as if who I am is connecting with maybe something that they need in that moment. So that looks like me just starting a conversation. That's whether it's in a store, whether it's in a school with a student or with a parent. It really is. I have recognized that when I show up, this is what I'm showing up with, right? And I have a heart for everyone else that I cross paths, and especially those that I connect with more intimately.
Hmm.
I want them to know what it is that they carry on the inside. I often tell the students at school, when you walk into a room, something just walked into the room that was not present, that was not there. And when you understand that, you're like, wait a second, then it should cause you to say, well, what is that thing? What is it, the thing that I carry
Yeah.
that I brought into the room, and to search that out? And for me, it was a what. There are things that I have recognized about myself over the years.
Hmm.
And I think, again, getting to know who you are, your reason for being here, it's a journey.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to think it was just one place. Like, I'll get there one day, I'll know one day. But what
Yeah.
I found out is when I got there, when I knew there was something else. Because just like God, when we're getting to know God, there are layers and dimensions and depths, and secrets. It's not all at one time. It's like, whoa, I didn't know that about you. Whoa, now
Yeah.
I'm learning something else. He made us in the same way. There are layers to our being, right? Layers to our soul, layers to understanding all that's on the inside of us. And while you may come in contact with something, whoa, there's something else to find out.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm on that continual search of finding out all of the yumminess and the goodness that
Yeah.
God has placed on the inside of me, because He selected those things.
Yeah.
He fashioned us, and knew us even before we were formed in the womb.
Mm.
Which means if He knew us, He knew something about us. He knew an identity. So what is that thing that you possess, that you carry, that you need to know? Because once you get there to one place, there's more to find out. And so for me, that's kind of how I end up engaging with people,
Yeah.
because that is who I am. And I've learned to be me. I used to actually criticize myself for
Mm.
doing that. I'd be like, maybe I'm being too much. Why do I care in this moment that this person knows how important they are?
Come on.
Why do I? And I was like, wait a second, because that's who I am.
Yeah.
That's who God created me to be. That's
Yeah.
how I show up. And if
Yeah.
I deny that part of me, then I am denying who I am. I'm denying what God placed on the inside of me. And so I haven't always known or even believed in what it is. But when I became congruent and aligned with what God placed inside of me, and it's like, whoa. And that thing always ends up serving others. And
So
so, and
good.
naturally so. And so I love to do that,
Yeah.
whether again in a store with somebody I don't know,
Yeah.
with a student or whoever. I mean, I think even with our first conversation, it was so full of purpose. We connected on that.
We
I mean,
did.
it was like the very first time we met, it was like, am I just meeting her really for the first time? Because it doesn't seem like it, because
Right.
we share that whole,
Yeah.
purpose so strongly. It connected. And I think that's what it is. Like, we walk through life and we see people, but there are certain connections to be made, or should I say certain connections that already exist that we are coming aware of.
Yeah.
Oh, I just didn't cross your path. We crossed path. We were already connected, divinely connected, and we became aware of it. And what's
Yeah.
on the inside of me connected what's on the inside of you, almost like the Elizabeth and Mary kind of thing, you
Ex-
know?
Oh, exactly, like exactly, honey. My
Yeah.
baby is leaping now, like, and it
Yeah.
always does when I'm with you, and I'm sure vice versa.
Yeah. And paying attention when those things happen. It's
Yeah,
like, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm gonna pay attention to this.
yeah,
Because it's necessary. And the truth is, even though God has fully loaded us and given us everything we need,
mm,
he's also fully loaded others, and there's stuff in within others that activates us, that
yeah,
pulls us up, that says, hey, queen, arise, that gives a message
yeah.
that unlocks someone in another capacity. So
So good. So good. Listen, you all, grab your notebook, grab your pen. Look,
ah,
y'all know I like to take notes. Okay, Sharon. Okay. So I love it because as you were talking, and because we're in relationship, and I'm kind of jumping. Y'all know I send the plan, but Holy Spirit has permission to shake it up. But it's all good. So because we're in relationship, I know your heart, and I know about authenticated.
mm-hmm.
I feel like we need to talk about authenticated.
Okay, yes.
But before we talk about, what that is, and how that came about, was there, is there, because I know there was, is there a defining moment for you that comes to mind when you think about, okay, this is how it all came together for me to realize this is my purpose in helping to pull out purpose in other people? Like,
Yeah,
how did that come about? I know. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's one moment. What I would say is a series of moments
Mhm.
that I didn't even connect all of them at the same time. This goes back to some things that I've connected now, go back to my childhood. I'm like, whoa, that was a piece and I didn't recognize it at the moment.
Mhm.
It goes back to another moment, in my 20s where I found out, well, wait a minute, this is a part of my purpose. And so along the way, it starts just connecting. And a lot of that had to do with even prophetic moments where people spoke something or unlocked something in me or said something that
Yeah.
opened me and made me aware of what God had put inside of me. I
Yeah.
remember someone saying when I was probably about 18 years old, you don't even know what's inside of you. You think you've already. And I
Mhm.
remember during that time, I sang, but
Mhm.
I was so nervous and so scared and so, oh my goodness, I didn't like being in front of people. It was just the singing, and someone said you don't even real. I thought it was just singing at one point. And then even if I take it further back, I used to compete in speaking, public speaking when I was in high school. And I would have never thought that speaking would be a part,
Yeah.
singing would be a part, and then it would be taken even much further than, oh, just doing those things, because
Yeah.
I thought it was just in the doing. But once I recognized I don't even know what's in me because of the being, there were several other things for me to do because of who I am and who I'm being. And so I think it was all of the connections and things that have happened. And even more recently, someone has spoke a prophetic word to me about clarity, about things coming together as it pertains to, they use the word like branding for what it is, the purpose, and I would know. Not too long after that, I started getting downloads divinely from God about authenticated and then things about, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And, you know, it all just started coming together. It's not even anything that I had to search out or create. It just came to me. It's like, and when I say just came to me, it came from within me,
Yeah.
out of me. And
Yeah.
then my mind recognized, wait a second,
Yeah.
this is like amazing. I get what you're saying. And at first I thought, oh, that's cute when I wrote it down. Oh, that's cute. Authenticated, and then, from within me came, authenticity is your passport to a life of fulfillment. And I was like, wait a second, whoa. And then I just kept hearing other things that and I understood that fulfillment is a part of my assignment. See, I know what it's like to live and do things and produce things and still have a degree of unfulfillment on the inside. We're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to just accept that and live with it. I'm like, well, at least I'm living a good life.
Come on.
At
Come
least
on.
I'm
Come
married.
on.
At
Come
least I've charted Billboard before. At
on.
least I have a podcast. At least
Mm.
I have started, 3 businesses.
Yeah.
At least this. But if I'm doing all of those things and I'm unfulfilled, that means a part of me is not living authentically. A part of me I have not actually realized and came to the awareness that is there, that exists. I need to acknowledge that and I need to live that. And that's how you are to be fulfilled. If there's some level of unfulfillment or unsatisfaction and you still got all these things going on, then there's a part of you that you have not acknowledged, that you haven't engaged, or possibly that you haven't become aware of.
Yeah.
And I started just pushing more into that and speaking more into that. And naturally, how I do that is to tell stories from my life. That, I started, that's what happens on my podcast. I need to record more podcasts.
It's coming. It's coming.
So that's on my to do.
Yes. Yes. Kickstart. Kickstart. Kickstart.
Yes.
Yes.
Kickstarted. This is a Kickstarter. So, but what I love about the podcast for me was I had an opportunity to have like a one-on-one conversation, it felt like to me, where I've invited people to come and sit and have a conversation. And it's me really digging through my heart and in my life and in my soul as an example to demonstrate this is how you do it. So maybe you don't know who you are. Maybe you're like, I can't say. I spoke with a lady not too long ago. She's in her mid 60s. And she said, I don't even know if I can answer the question, who am I? And I was like, whoa, and everybody can't answer that question. But if you can't, maybe here's some tools to how to start digging. I started thinking about when I was a child, when I was a child, how I told my mom one day, we were visiting one of her friends. And I said, hey, mom, I was a little girl. And I'm saying, hey, I want to go home. And my mom was like, okay, we'll go home. So I may be like 4 years old, 3 or 4. I want to go home. We'll go home in a minute. And I decided I'm ready to go. So I got up, I walked outside, I walked down the street, and at the corner store, because I lived in the country, so it's kind of miles. So I probably lived some miles down the street, but I knew where I was going. And the man at the corner store starts yelling at my mom, hey, this baby is out here. Hey, because I wanted to go home, which that told me about myself. When I want something, I go and do it. Another time, my dad, I was in the car and he went to a fish fry. He left me in the car. I wanted to get out. I climbed out of the window, swung on the mirror, and jumped down. Another time, I was at home. My mom said, she was testing me. I said, I wanted a banana. She said, well, get the banana. I took the chair, pushed it up to the counter, climbed on the counter, climbed on the microwave. The microwaves back in the day were gigantic. Climbed on the microwave, climbed on the refrigerator, got the banana. So a lot in my life where I showed up in life. Oh, well, I have a coach, and my yummy coach, Andrea. So she talks about interrupting the interruptions, where we've had interruptions in life, right? And you have an uninterrupted self, where before life happened to you, before you had experiences. So before I had experiences, little Sharon, went for what she wanted. She was bold. She didn't look around and look to see how people responded to what it was how she showed up. Now, after I had been interrupted, that Sharon now looked like, oh, let me see how they respond first. Let me just make sure I respond correctly so I don't hurt their feelings, or make sure I respond correctly so they accept me, so they like me. And that started in daycare. I remember doing an exercise in the group coaching class with Coach Andrea, and that exercise we did an exercise, and I went back to the moment of when that occurred, which was in daycare. And
Yeah.
I went to daycare. I was so happy that day to get to know people. I was so talkative. And when I came in, they said, "Oh, we heard that you're really smart, that what is your address?" And I told them my address at box 45G Parkton. We had a different address then, box
Yeah.
that we were on a route 1, box 45G Parkton, North Carolina, 28371. Well, who is the president? Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
What's your phone number? What's your parents' name? They started like drilling me,
Yeah.
and I could answer every question that they presented. And they were just like, "Oh, you're." And then they started saying things about me. These are adults. And
Mm.
so in that moment, I learned, wait a second, I need to pull back just a little bit so people will like me. Because if I answer the questions right, if I show up excited like I did on that first day to meet
Yeah.
everybody in daycare, I remember the daycare. I'm avoid saying the name because I remember the name of the daycare.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember how they would respond to me. And the only time they treated me good was when my mom would pick me up. And then they would say something nice to me, but it
Mm.
wasn't nice. And there were other things that I began to recall throughout my life that interrupted how Sharon showed up, the things that I naturally carried. And so, as my yummy coach says, I had to interrupt the interruptions.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. If we're talking about nuggets here,
Yeah.
in
Yes.
order to grow and in order to develop, you have to have people that you're connected to that can help you get there,
So good.
and help you grow in an area. Like
Yes.
for instance, even right now within my health, I have to connect with people who have it and who have excelled and who they know how to apply
Yes.
whatever is necessary to be applied to get there.
Yes.
And so many times we want to do the work on our own. We don't want anybody to know what it is we're facing because, or we don't want anybody to think this, or maybe I can work it out on my own and then I can come out and be like, boom, I
Yeah.
did it on my own. No, we need each other.
You do.
Someone else has what it is that you need, and that person can help you develop into the best version of you. See, there's several versions of you. I am not the same Sharon that
Yeah.
I was last year,
Yeah.
the year before. There
Yeah.
is a version, and this version of Sharon right now is doing what she can do. She's doing the best that she can do with all that she has.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about what's going to happen a year down the road because that version of me will be equipped because of the work that this version is doing. So I think if we can do what we have right now, everything that we have in our possession, everything that we have been given, that we can use the tools, what we have right now, this version of our life will be fulfilled because we are being authentic.
Yeah.
We are actually being congruent with who we are and what we have. And that does not mean that you are reaching for perfection because you're already perfected.
Come on.
I'm perfected forever.
Come on.
I'm already perfected. So I am working towards being authentically authentically who God created me to be.
Yeah. 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 There it is. There it is,
Yeah.
ladies. There it is. We really could stop right here, but I want you to talk about. Oh my gosh.
I
Oh
guess I
my.
didn't even talk about authenticated. That's what you asked.
Well, yeah, but we're gonna come to that. But I want you
Okay.
just to lean just a little bit more into because I'm thinking about the sister who's listening, and
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "Oh my gosh,"
Mm-hmm.
like I resonate with what Sharon's saying, and I know there's more to me. And just like you mentioned, the lady said, "I don't know how to answer that question of who I am." And you talked about like looking back at childhood. How do you, or what would you say? Maybe a first step to interrupting those interruptions.
Yeah. Well, I think what you have to be is aware.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't want to jack it up, but Coach Andrea has this process,
Okay.
which has been really, really good, which is being aware, having aligned action and taking it and having accountability, right? But I want to start with, I think, just having an awareness that something is off. When you feel something is off right now, I am not really, or it's almost for me like when I look back, I had pieces of me, but still something was off.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't mean, because sometimes we just go all or nothing. I don't know who I am. Wait
Right.
a second. You
Right.
know something. You are
That's
working with
good.
something.
That's
You are
good.
not
That's good.
bankrupt. You are not empty. You are working with something. So let me say that.
Yes.
You are working with something, and it's important to acknowledge what you've already recognized.
Yes.
And there are clues all around you.
Yeah.
And that you can find it within your relationships. Like I have this identity statement, identity thing that I do with the students at the school. And actually, I got this from our friend Dub Alexander.
Hey.
And I do this process. I do this process with our students, with helping them look at to ask important people in their life, like their parents and their siblings,
Mm-hmm.
about themselves. Ask them certain questions about themselves to give them 5 words about the greatness they see in them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have them to ask God. And sometimes the students look like, ask God. Oh my gosh, she's going to talk to me. But
Right.
I think that is the thing, that God is our creator, and he is speaking and he is talking. And if you ask him, he will answer. And it's just
Will.
realizing how he's answering you,
Yes.
how he's speaking to you, but
Yes.
he will answer and he will let you know, and he will highlight what it is that he's placed inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say it's not as far off as you think it is.
Good.
It's not, it's right, it's in you. And so, since it's there in you, you can ask God, you can ask others. You should ask yourself, review and look back. What about me? What about me of in my life have I seen? What are
Yeah.
the things that I've loved? What are the things that I have not liked that I respond this way? Often, if we flip that, then we'll see exactly where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think not being critical, but I would just say that first, just being aware,
Mm-hmm.
having an awareness of what's taking place beneath the surface, having an awareness of what's taking place on the inside of you, and moving from that and making sure that you are now, once you have an awareness, then, and maybe that does, and maybe having an awareness means that you connect with someone.
Yeah.
You are not solo.
Yeah.
And like I just said this a few minutes ago, but I want to say it again. It is not too far from you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we feel like, oh my goodness, the thing that I want, the thing that I desire, the thing that I need is so, so far from me. It's so far. And how can I get there? But I would say be light on yourself, be good to you.
That's so
Show
good.
yourself some goodness, show yourself some grace, show yourself, be merciful to you, be
Yes.
kind to you. The
Yes.
same kindness that you extend to others. Because here's the thing, if you, Candice, if we were having a conversation and you said something that was off, I'd be like, no, 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 no. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to step in there as your sister. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to offer you kindness,
Mm-hmm.
even if you made a mistake or had a lack of judgment on something.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
your sister, I'm stepping in with kindness,
Yes.
and you would do the same for me. You're
Yes.
going to step in with kindness. Sharon, that statement was a little off. That's just a bit. So you have to do that with yourself as well. Be gentle. Be
Yes.
gentle. We're
Be
not in a
gentle.
race against other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Other time, we're only person that you should be comparing you with is you, your
Yeah.
version, your last version.
Yes.
Sharon, 5.0, or whatever,
I'm telling you.
6.0,
I love
next
that.
7.0, just the previous version.
Yeah.
And so have that awareness and pay attention to what's happening on the inside, including your desires. What is it that you're desiring?
Mm-hmm.
What irritates you? What makes you laugh?
Mm-hmm.
What makes you cry? All of those things are things that you should be having an awareness and paying an attention to. And I'm unsure, because of sometimes how we've been taught,
Yeah.
which is put others first, not self, be humble.
Yeah.
And so we apply this humility, we apply this selflessness, which we have really interpreted as don't pay attention to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pay attention to what's going on inside of you. Pay attention to others. And then we end up knowing others more than we know ourselves.
Come on, Sharon Rochelle.
That's not, that's out, that's out of order.
Yeah.
That's out of whack. to
Yeah.
know another person
Mm,
more
mm,
than you have taken time to know you. How can you fully show up for someone if you do not know who you are? If you haven't taken the time to explore and deep dive, because what happens when we get in a new relationship? Oh, we want to know about this person.
yeah.
Oh, what they love, what they dislike, what foods do they like?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, everybody that I love, I'm pretty sure like I've always known what kind of eggs they like, you know? And then it took me for the longest. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm married and I'm eating scrambled eggs. I like boiled eggs. When I go home with my mom, I make over medium eggs because that's what they like. But I like boiled eggs.
You like that.
So I
Yeah.
started scrambling eggs for my husband and boiling me an egg,
Come on.
making over medium for my parents
Hmm.
and boiling me an egg,
Hmm.
right? Even though I'm not eating eggs right now. But as an example, I was just using it as an example that, when you are admiring other people and setting your eyes on them, sometimes that is a hindrance to you getting and digging inside. You should put the same effort you put into getting to know someone that you're in a new relationship. That's the same effort you should do with you.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your thoughts. I
Yeah.
I think about my thoughts.
Yeah.
I question
Yeah.
my thoughts.
Yeah.
I sit
Yeah.
with my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I will dig in it like what, why I'm thinking this.
Hmm.
And then even sometimes I've come to the point and I've realized and I said, I am not the owner of that thought. I won't
Come
accept that.
on. Come on.
That didn't come from within me because
Yeah.
I know me.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah.
I'm not the owner of that. So I'm not going to now connect with that thought. Not only am I not the owner of it, that is not in alignment with scripture. That is not in alignment with what the word of God, Jesus himself, has
Yeah.
spoken over me.
Yeah.
So if he has not spoken that over me,
Yeah.
then I am not now going to own that thought or come into agreement with that thought.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to start.
Oh, oh
Being
yes.
aware of you.
Yes. So good. So good. Listen, you are blessing me
Ah,
and the sis listening today, listening and watching. Thank you.
hey.
Okay, now let's
Okay.
talk about this amazing experience, authenticated. I want you to talk about it. And I had a chance to be a part. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to the next one coming
Yes.
soon this summer. And I'm thinking about like, okay, and then I need to stop talking so you can talk. But I love this thought of exploration and how you're talking about, this version of you, but now this is another version of you, right? Version 5.0, 6.0. But that we have, God gives us this invitation to continue to explore him and explore ourselves. And I know that's a
Yeah.
part of the I don't want to say theme, but just your heart around authenticated. So could you talk
Yeah.
about that experience?
So, Authenticated is a 1-day retreat, and it is happening on June 14th in Fayetteville, North Carolina
Come,
this year.
come, come. You're
Oh,
invited.
yes. You got to travel, boat, airplane, travel, get to Authenticated.
Get to it.
Um, And so the speakers at Authenticated are called explorers because when each speaker takes the stage, they are helping you to explore you, to do a deep dive with Holy Spirit and to search the inward parts of you. And it's important that we know who we are. And again, as I said earlier,
Mhm.
um, when we're in a relationship, they now you hear a lot about as people have been talking about, marriage and divorces, and they say that people get to divorce when they stop communication. They stop talking, they stop getting to know one another. And um and so while they may like let's use my parents for example. My parents will be celebrating 50 years this year. I know, right? That's crazy. They got married. My mom was 18
Mhm.
and my dad was 20 something.
Okay.
He's yes, 25, I think. I think he was 25. So my mom was 18, dad's 25. Um, and so they are not the same people today
Right.
that they were
50.
then. My dad's in his 70s, you
Yeah.
know? And so they're not, I think my mom is 69. My dad's in his 70s. They're two different people.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't engage with one another in the same capacity that they engage with one another at 18. My mom is not that same 18-year-old girl that left her dad's house and got married. She's a woman who's, been married, raised two kids, has grandkids, you know, just worked. I mean, she's done a lot of life in between there. So what would happen if my dad communicated with her the same way that he communicated with her in the 18? There would be issues. And same vice versa. What if she communicated with him like he was the 25-year-old
Right.
and now he's in his 70s? There would be issues. How about bringing that to yourself? Do you engage with yourself the same way that you engage with yourself when you were younger? Is it the same conversation you're having with yourself? Have you grown with you, in your communication to interrogate, to find out, to question yourself and to find out who you are? And so that's really what authenticated is, a time of exploration. And it's for women, adult women, who are doing their thing in life. They're doing their thing, but they need to take a moment
Yes.
to pause, to refresh, to be empowered, and to explore this version of who you are now. And then so you can move on to that next version. So that you can live a fulfilled life, so that you can abandon self-criticism and self-doubt. And then you can latch on to living authentically. You can latch on to being fulfilled, and you can live that life. And so authenticated is this whole day of exploration, that we are on a search for treasure. There is treasure within you. Yes, we have this treasure within earthen vessels, right? And although we know we have Holy Spirit, but the Holy Spirit is on the inside of us, but there's also treasure that he placed there.
Yes.
Treasure that you can find, treasure for you to explore, and it's there. And so that's what authenticated is. And we spend the whole day doing just that. And I feed you while you are there. So I encourage women to come to join in with all of the explorers and my whole A team authenticated. You're part of my A team.
A team.
A team. How's it go? Or something like that. I don't know.
Like hey. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yes. A team. And so I'm so glad that you're part of my A team, because I know you are also, when you come and when you stand on that stage, that you're going to be saying something that is helping them connect, helping them connect all of the dots for the day. And so I look forward to it. And it is an event that it's easily my favorite event. Yes. And I love doing that. I love doing events, period. I love creating experiences for people. Yes. And when I combine creating an experience for people with my purpose and my passion and my assignment, it's like, well, ding, ding, ding. I'm combining all those things, empowering, igniting, inspiring, and doing all those things with my voice surrounding purpose. That's like a win-win. So if you step in the room, it's going to be my best. I'm bringing my best. And I do need people to register. Yes. I'm bringing my best. I need you to register, get your event passport, and be in the room. Because I'm giving nothing less than my best on that day.
Yes, be in the room. Go to the show notes, go to the description. I'll have the link to get to the information for you to be registered. When this episode drops, you'll have time. I'm telling you, have time. Because I think it'll be in April when you hear this. So you'll still have time to register and be Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm pumped. I've never been to Fayetteville, but it's going to be a time, because I'll be with Sharon and the other members of the A team, the other explorers, and you. Come on in this room. Yep. Yes. Oh, it's going to be amazing. So good. Okay, let's go back, because you mentioned the school. And what I love is that authenticated is your baby, right? It's your baby. But also MHG. Well, you share that baby with your amazing hubby. Shout out to Dr. Antonio. So I remember us talking, and I'm like, man, that those Thomases. I'm like, you all are solutionist. And I think what just blesses me is that I'm from Louisville. So I grew up in the school system here. My parents are retired teachers. So even though I always said I will never be a teacher, like I remember saying that. I remember I feel like, you remember these moments in your childhood, and I feel like it was a movie and it was like slow motion. I was standing on my
Yeah.
porch and I was leaving for college and I was coming down the steps, not my porch, my parents' porch. And I feel like my mom said, Janita, take some education classes while you're there in school. And I'm like, no, I'm going over here and doing journalism and communication. But I've been in a lot of classrooms. It's funny how things come about. But
Yeah.
I say all that to say is that I know that God has called me to the system of education. Like I'm always paying attention. I've been in a lot of classrooms helping students. So to meet you guys and know the heart around creating MHG, and now it's in its second year, right? Second
Yes.
year of being
Second year.
open. Like,
Mhm.
talk about MHG, talk about and you kind of mentioned some of this in talking to students, your purpose in terms of helping students see their identity. How do you see that all coming together in the work you do with the school?
Yeah. So the work we do, identity is important. So that's why we're existing, period.
Mhm.
We are developing what we say, developing global leaders who
Yes,
lead with kingdom principles. And so we are developing them for them to know, like each student at MHG has what we call a student leader strategic plan. And so with the student leader strategic plan, it's just like a strategic plan for a business. So businesses do like a strategic plan for 3 to 5 years,
yes,
and they highlight what's going to happen in that 3 to 5 years, their goals, where they're going, what they want to see happen. And so that plan helps them move strategically towards what they desire, the desired outcome.
mhm,
The same thing for our student leaders. We have a strategic plan where we have on there their identity statement, right? We have a vision statement. So just like we have a vision, they have a vision statement. We are mentoring minds that harness atmospheres of spiritual, social, academic growth. And so the same thing with them, mentor, harness, grow. We have them create their own statement. Okay. And so that's what we are in providing opportunities for them to do that. Like we do a global leadership trip. We were going to do it every year, but we're doing like every other year.
yeah,
That
yes.
will help our students prepare. Our first trip, we went to Malawi and we did a goat farm there.
In
We
Africa, if you all didn't know,
Yes,
um,
in Africa, yes,
yeah,
on the continent of Africa.
confident.
And we did a goat farm there, which our goats that we purchased had some goats. So our goat farm is growing. And the purpose of that was to stimulate the economy there because that particular country needs a flow of economics, more income flowing through. And so we went to stimulate the economy. So we put a goat farm there and to do that. And
Yeah,
so we also, while we were there, visited an orphanage that we support monthly. And so while it might be something that's small for us, the amount that we send to them monthly is a huge deal for them, you know. And so we make them aware of how you can show up. If there is a problem, you see a problem. So we studied the nation before we went, and then we created, these are the solutions that we're going to do. And so that's what we seek to do with our school. Now, and you asking me about the school, we focus on spiritual development, academics,
mhm,
and athleticism. We developing them athletic. So we kind of focus on doing those three things, our main three things. Now you mentioned MHG, but I want to say because sometimes as I spoke about, we started MHG, we
mhm.
started Kalima Care. We have a label where we do my music publishing on that. So and you might have an idea or something, like, well, I want to do this, or I have this, or and I just want to encourage, or anybody that's already started something,
Yes,
when you start something, there are so many things. Look, it is just what it is, a start. It's like a baby. I heard somebody say this recently, which is when a baby starts walking, I'm not even sure where I heard it, but when a baby starts walking, everybody's cheering. They're not like, oh my gosh, they fell down, you
right.
lazy baby. You did horrible.
Saying that.
I'm
No, they're
trying
not
to
to
think
say
where I
that.
heard that recently. I heard it somewhere. Um, and nobody says that.
Yeah.
It's, oh my, yay, you did it. Keep going, keep
Yes.
going, keep going.
Yes.
Because there's just learning how to walk. When I started a school, when my husband and I started a school, we didn't know how to start a school.
Right. Right.
We didn't know all of the things we would encounter. We didn't know what would face that. What happens when parents don't pay tuition?
Mm-hmm.
What situation does that put you in?
Yeah.
What does that look like at the end of the year when you expected to be here, but you're here?
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? Hey, you just started walking, and it's okay. You have to recognize when you are doing, I made the step toward it, and the
Yeah.
step that you make towards something, it counts and it matters. Those
Yes.
are the same things that we are teaching our students. Get it started.
Yes.
Recognize what now. You
Yeah.
don't have to wait. Recognize now what it is that you carry and that you possess and work towards it. Now,
Right.
here's the thing. It might change. Like, for instance, if there's a student and that student is a natural caregiver and they want to become a physical therapist, right now, that desire to become a physical therapist might change, but that caregiver part of you is still
Yes.
going to be there. It
Real.
might
Yes.
show up differently. You
Yes.
might pivot. So I might not be doing this now. I
Right.
might realize this about myself. But the important thing is to get it down on paper. Where am I going? So
Mm-hmm.
that we can track. This year, this is what your vision was. This year, this is what your identity statement was. And let's find these commonalities so that when you are ready to leave, when you're ready to continue your education or make the decision what you're going to do,
Mm-hmm.
now you have data. You
Yes.
have data that you can take with you. You have data that you can look at and say, whoa, this is me.
Yes.
This has been the versions of me. This
Yeah.
is these are the commonalities. This is, oh, I see this. Now I can make a decision, and from here decide this is what I'm going to go do. So
Yeah.
when I graduated personally from high school, girl, I didn't even know what I
Yeah.
wanted to do.
Yeah.
I know my grandmother and my grandma and my mom both wanted to be nurses at one point. I know I grew up in the hospital because both of them worked in the hospital. They never became a nurse, but they both. My mom worked in X-ray. My grandma worked in the dietary, and I was always at the hospital. I became a candy striper in the summer. I did the hospital track in high school, and I started the day off at the hospital in high school, and that's all I knew was hospital. I'm going nursing, but nursing ultimately it came out wasn't my passion.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the thing I liked doing. When I got in college, second year, no, third year, starting clinicals every day in the hospital, I was like, what in the world did I do? Did I
Mm-hmm.
sign up for? This is not my passion. Where I had friends who loved it. All they wanted was
Oh yeah.
nursing.
Yeah.
They studied hard for it. They lost sleep over it. They
Yeah.
wanted this
They
thing.
wanted it.
And I'm like, and I'm like, I don't want it like that.
Like I'm
But
going to listen.
I didn't. I was like, I don't want it like that. But
Right.
I didn't know what I wanted. I had not done the internal work at that time of search, and that's okay because that's
Yeah.
who I was at the time, that's okay. I
Yes.
hadn't done that internal work, and so I didn't know. And so I found out much later in life, and this kind of leans back to what you said earlier. I found out later in life as I walked through those moments that connected that I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, I had wrapped my whole life around nursing. And guess what? For a while, I thought, I'm not going to be a nurse. I don't have much significant value. I'm not going to be this, and it's not the being. I mean, it's not the doing of a nurse, the doing, it's the being.
Yeah.
Once you find out your being and who you are. And
Yeah.
so that's what we try to give our students. Again, that is just another avenue to
Yeah.
do the whole purpose thing.
Oh,
That is a whole avenue that we get to pour into young people
yes.
and find those that will connect with us in doing so.
Yes.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. You all go follow MHG on social media. I know Dr. Thomas is good about posting
Yeah.
what's going on and even like the basketball team doing so well. And there's just
Yes.
more goodness to come
Yeah.
out of
Mm-hmm.
MHG Preparatory Academy. And we
Yeah.
just salute you and thank you so much for pouring into these amazing students here in Louisville, Kentucky. And not just the students, because it impacts the families as well. So
Thank you.
yay! So excited. Well,
Woo-hoo.
we're gonna have to do a part two because
Ah,
right, because we're gonna need that next version.
yes,
What you have to
yes,
say. So I would love to have you come back. But thank you so much for being a part of this podcast and pouring into the ladies that are going to be watching and listening. And I love for you to share how can people connect with you and even purchase
yes,
right your music and look forward to the
yes.
music that's coming.
Okay, yes, there is music coming.
Yes.
Yes. So, for my music, my name is Sharon Roshell. So it's without my last name Thomas, but it's Sharon Roshell. That's how you can find my music on most all digital platforms for music, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, all of those. Um, for me, if you're wanting to follow me on social media, I am Sharon Roshell at I am Sharon Roshell. You can also find me on my website, which is SharonRoshell.com. And that's Roshell.
Yes.
And then if you're like, okay, what about authenticated? The registration for that is
Yes.
befullandfilled.com. Befullandfilled.com. But if you go on any platform that I have, you will see a
Yes.
link for authenticated.
We love to see you in the room. And it was something else I was
Yes,
going to say. I wanted you to mention. Oh, the podcast. The podcast.
yes,
The
the
podcast.
podcast. Hello, the authenticated live.
Yes.
So yeah, Sharon with Sharon Rochelle,
Okay.
authenticated live with Sharon Rochelle.
Awesome. Yes. Look for that on Apple Podcasts and probably other podcast streams as well.
Yeah, yes, your favorites, whatever your favorite
Yes,
is.
whatever your favorite
Yeah.
devices or the streaming platform to listen to. So thank you, Sharon. Again, happy birthday and thank you for
Thank
pouring
you.
in and spending time with me on today.
Thank you for the invitation, Candice. I really appreciate it, and I am super honored to be here with you. You're my friend and my sister, and I thank God for you that He connected us. I really love you. Thank you.
Love you. Thank you. Me too. Same. Ditto. All right. Until next time. Peace.